wealthy landowners were doing was oppressing the poor, right? They were not giving them their wages on time, and this was dramatically affecting their lifestyle, and even some were not able to support their own families because of this. So people actually were dying, as the verse talks about, that you're even murdering those poor people. So again, this isn't exactly our situation. We're not using, I don't think, our wealth to do this to poor people, but we still can learn the underlying idea that it's easy to have things and to rely upon ourselves because we have them. You know, we have a cupboard that is full of different things that we can eat from, or a closet that is full of different clothes that we can choose from, and we have pharmacies that are open 24 hours. You know, if we need medicine, we can go. Again, not bad things at all. They're really helpful to us, and they help us live more fruitful lives in many ways. But it's easy to become self-reliant, self-dependent, and essentially not wait on God anymore. And I think then his lesson that James is teaching in verses 7 through 11 about the poor helps us understand more so if the rich are not waiting on God because of the way that they are relying upon the things that they have, then how can we wait and rely upon God according to the poor example? Hopefully you'll remember from chapter 2, verse 5, and James says, "Has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith?" I think that's what he's getting at here in verses 7 through 11. There's a richness in their faith that the poor are able to understand and learn from sufferings and trials that I think that we can too. One of the most important exhortations of the Bible is the call to wait on the Lord. But don't we find that in our own experience that waiting is the most difficult things that we're called to do? And why is it so hard? Because it's so easy to take matters into our own hands, to follow our own timing and our own schemes. Yet over and over again, we are told in Scripture to wait on the Lord. Let me give you 4 examples of this. Psalm 27:14. You guys each have a piece of paper on your table that has these 4 psalms on it as well. Psalm 27:14. Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. Psalm 37:7. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Psalm 130, verse 5. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in his word I put my hope. Psalm 130, verse 6. My soul waits for the Lord, more than watchmen wait for the morning, more than watchmen wait for the morning. And more than just a few encouraging words in the Psalms, this seems to be a Bible-wide theme, the idea of waiting. So we need to span back through Bible history a bit to catch us up on this. The bite of the apple, curses were given, painful labor, toil over the land, cast out of the garden. But there was a promise given. Genesis 3:15, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. Horrible circumstances happened, but there was a promise that was given. And already this starts this expectation of waiting. What will this promise end up being? Murder, strife, pain, the flood. But there was a promise given by the Lord. In Genesis 12:1-3, the Lord said to Abram, leave your country, your people, your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Horrible circumstances happened. A promise was given by the Lord. This starts this expectation of waiting for someone, for something to happen. Next, we see enslavement and wandering. But there was a promise given. Exodus 19, verses 4-6. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites. Horrible times happened, but there was a promise given, and expectation was building up of something that was to come. Exile, separation, Israelites captives in foreign lands, but there was a promise given. Isaiah 9, 6-7, "For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given. The government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." Isaiah 53:5, "He was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed." Isaiah 61:1, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners." Some horrible things happened, but there were promises given that someone was to come to redeem and to deliver. But they didn't know what this meant. There was this period of waiting. For the Israelites, they had these words that they can kind of put together in a word bank. They knew that he would, be the Prince of Peace, that he would be a wonderful counselor. They would know that there is going to be some day where the Son of Man crushes Satan. How that happens, they didn't know. They understood that whoever this figure was going to be would bind up the brokenhearted, proclaim freedom for the captives, would release from darkness those in prison. But they didn't know what it was going to be. It was a waiting period. So they were promised, and they were waiting. Who could this one be? You can almost hear them joining together singing, as we do too in our church services. "Come, thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free. From our fears and sins release us, let us find our rest in thee. Israel's strength and consolation, hope of all the earth thou art, dear desire of every nation, joy of every longing heart." There was much anticipation for the birth of the Messiah, and Israel had been waiting thousands of years to figure out who this would be. Now, after Malachi was written, which is the last book that we have in our Old Testament, there was a period of 400 years of silence from the prophets before Jesus appears on the scene. And so imagine that scene with me just for a second. These are the Israelites that have been given all of these promises that I've just read to, and 1,000 more. And they're expecting that this one is going to come soon. And they're thinking, maybe he'll come in 10 years, he doesn't come. 20 years, he's still not here. 50 years, we're still waiting. 90 years, I'm dead. But then I have a son, and the son thinks, 10 years, sure he's coming, 20 years, 50 years, 90 years, I'm dead. He has a son, 20, 30, 50, 90. He has a son, 20, 30, 50, 90. 4 generations of people longing and waiting. Who is this one going to be? So it's easy to say that number, 400 years, 4 generations of waiting, but what does that actually look like? 400 years ago to us was 1612. We weren't even a nation in 1612. What happened in 1612? December 28th, Galileo becomes the first astronomer to observe the planet Neptune. 1614, Pocahontas marries John Rolfe. 1620, the Mayflower comes to Plymouth, Massachusetts. 1670, champagne was invented. 1775 was the start of the Revolutionary War, and we gained independence in 1776. 1861, Civil War. 1880, Thomas Edison invents what we still use now as the first light bulb. 1917, the U.S. declares war and joins in World War I. 1929, stock market crashes. 1939, World War II. 1954, Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka. You guys know what this is. The U.S. Supreme Court made separation of black and white students unconstitutional in public schools. 2001, the Twin Towers were hit. 2005, Hurricane Katrina. Okay, that's just, 10 different dates that I've given you within 1612 to 2012. Pretty monumental things were happening. If you think back to the Israelites' time, not quite the same type of things, but there's a lot happening, and you're waiting, and we're waiting too when we see 1612 to 2012. I mean, there's tons of wars that are in there, strife, thousands of people dying, and that's kind of the boat that they were in. So 4 generations of waiting, expectantly waiting. Maybe they were thinking, did God forget? But then we hear from Paul in Galatians 4:4. But when the fullness of the time had come, God sent forth his son,